Ladies and gentlemen, Spider-Man Brand New Day has swung into theaters and it is taking the world by storm. A historical opening weekend at the box office, almost $1 billion made already, highest domestically earning opening weekend of all time, and I want to talk about it. Welcome to I Am Rob Talks. I am Rob and I like to talk about all things nerdy. Many of you probably know me from my gaming content, but this is a channel I've wanted to dive into for a while now, so if you like comic book movies and shows and that sort of thing, be sure to hit subscribe. I'll try not to go 2 years without uploading this time, but no promises. Oh, and spoiler warning, this video will have spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch this. So, Spider-Man Brand New Day is in fact like that. I currently have it as my second favorite Spider-Man film of all time, right behind Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, and I think it would actually be number one if it did a couple things differently, which we'll get into. But first, let's talk about the positives, the things that make this such an amazing Spider-Man film. The good news is, when it comes to what makes a good Spider-Man film, Brand New Day checks all of the most important boxes. It delivers an emotional, relatable story. The action sequences, the swinging with a lot of inspiration from the Insomniac video games. It has a lot of the things that I personally felt were very lacking in the John Watts trilogy. I have always loved Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but this is the first Spider-Man film of his where I felt like, yeah, that's Spider-Man. Like, the real one. Brand New Day picks up after the events of No Way Home. We open up with a montage of Spider-Man fighting an assortment of villains over the years. You got Tombstone, Scorpion, Tarantula, and he is working closely with the NYPD. Basically, he's been kicking ass at the whole Spider-Man thing, and the city loves him for it. He is NYC's golden boy with the key to the city. Literally. They really set the tone early and made Spider-Man feel real and personal. And that's something I haven't really felt in a Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2, I guess. It's parts of the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 as well. Like, as if Spidey is a real guy, a real superhero existing in New York City right now. That's a feeling that this movie captures very consistently, and it's one of the things I appreciated the most about it. But anyway, yeah, this montage was perfection, and quite frankly, I feel like it accomplished more for this character in 60 seconds than Homecoming or Far From Home did in their entire runtimes. Shots fired, shots fired. But Peter Parker, on the other hand, is not doing so great in this film. Aunt May is gone, and the ones he cares about most do not remember who he is. No Ned, no MJ. And he is committed to keeping his distance to keep them safe, so all he has is Spider-Man. Peter is broke, depressed, and alone. And I mean, what more could you ask for, you know? That's what we want, man. Make Peter Parker miserable, baby. That's what it's all about. That's what we live for. The emotional weight and burden of not being able to be with his loved ones leads to what is essentially an existential crisis. One kind of similar to what Tobey Maguire's Peter went through in Spider-Man 2. This movie shares so many of the same themes as Spider-Man 2, it is actually insane. I mean, it's literally a story about the clashing of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Him struggling to be Spider-Man because of his desire for human connection and love. Which leads me into the first thing I want to dive into, Ned and MJ. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little concerned when we found out these two were coming back because I was almost positive that they were gonna just walk back on everything they did in No Way Home, you know, and they were going to be like, oh, Peter, we remember you all, kumbaya around the campfire. But no, they do not do that. Neither MJ or Ned remember who Peter Parker is in this movie. And it is so gut-wrenching in the way that they get that point across. Like, Peter is so desperate to just be around MJ and Ned, to just be in the same room as them, that he sneaks into a party they're having, and there he sees MJ kissing her new boyfriend. And his response to that was to go jump off a building in the rain and just free fall. And it seemed like for a second there, he was just going to take the fall damage. Like, dude, if you've ever had your heart broken at any point in your life, that scene is like the perfect embodiment of what that feels like. It was perfect. I love that scene. I was never even really crazy about Ned or MJ. I just thought they were the, quirky high school friends and, whatever. Even at the end of No Way Home, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, that's sad, but I wasn't necessarily even emotional about them not remembering who Peter is. Funny enough, it was pretty much the opposite for me. I was actually kind of excited because I thought them forgetting Peter meant that going into the next trilogy, he was going to move on to Harry and Gwen, the more traditional Peter Parker friendships and romances. But I think Ned and MJ were handled so well in Brand New Day. And they were actually the culprits for some of the most emotional moments of the film. Throughout the story, Spider-Man, not Peter Parker, develops an unintentional relationship with MJ and with Ned because Sadie Sink's character, the villain, finds out who they are. So he has to go protect them or whatever. And my God, were these moments so good. Like that part where he is in MJ and Ned's living room, full suit, mask and all, building Legos with Ned, just hanging out like the good old days. Like I'm not gonna lie, I teared up a little bit at that part. It got me. Overall, Ned and MJ, they felt like they serviced Peter's development rather than being shoehorned back into his life just for the sake of following some formula that was laid by the John Watts trilogy. And that was what I was scared of. But it wasn't like that at all. Also, I thought it was the first time in these movies where Peter and MJ felt believable, I guess. It just always felt like such an underbaked romance to me. Like he just starts liking her off screen between Homecoming and Far From Home. But here I felt like I had some emotional investment into the relationship for the first time in the same way I felt with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone in the Amazing Spider-Man films. I felt like I was rooting for them. Like I want them to be together so bad, like Ross and Rachel. Anyways, back to Peter's existential crisis he had going on. I really dig the direction they went with this. Again, much like Spider-Man 2, but in the opposite direction somewhat. The TLDR of the situation is the arachnid side of Peter's DNA begins to take over his human side because of his emotional trauma, basically, and he begins to mutate. His body starts forming organic webbing. He develops heightened senses. He wakes up in a cocoon. I swear to God, at one point, I thought they were going to go full man spider. But they didn't because, don't want to scare the kids or whatever. But, fuck them kids. This leads Peter to seek counsel from another MCU hero, Bruce Banner, the Hulk. Bringing me to another concern I had going into this movie, whether or not they were going to MCU-ify it. The more that came out about this movie through its production, like, oh, Frank Castle's in it. Oh, the Hulk's in it. The more I felt myself like wincing. For so long, I just wanted a standalone Spider-Man movie. Just Spider-Man. Street level, Spider-Man villain, that's it. In Brand New Day, it's definitely not that. But oddly enough, it works here in ways that I didn't really expect because every character that Spidey has interaction with throughout the movie, they all service the plot. It's not a cameo fest like a lot of MCU movies end up being. Each character serves a purpose. Bruce Banner's role in the film is very important because it sets up Peter creating this inhibitor chip that he puts in his neck to keep his mutations under control. Technology that will most certainly not fall into the wrong hands and be used to control those with gifts in this universe. And good job, Spidey. Other heroes make appearances as well, such as Yelena, Black Widow. Peter goes to her to get information on his investigation regarding Sadie Sink's character. Jean Grey. It's Jean Grey. We've known for over a year that it's Jean Grey. Anyway, Yelena and Peter share a pretty strange scene here in a bathhouse where they're both naked. A lot of people didn't care for it. I personally thought it was hilarious, but I could see why you wouldn't like it. It's a weird scene. The only thing about this scene that I personally didn't like, and honestly I didn't like it throughout the whole movie, was Yelena at one point was like, me and Avengers, we big potato stuff. You, Spider-Man, you little potato stuff. Like, Yeah, I'm so sure, bro. Little potato stuff. Yeah, like, you're talking to the guy that fought Thanos, right? Where were you during all? Yeah, okay, all right. Like, that kind of, am I the only one? That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Who was you talking to? You ain't even show up till after Endgame. But yeah, anyway, let's talk Sadie Sink Jean Grey. All right. Her shtick here, her motives are that her sister was abducted and experimented on by the damage control department, led by a guy named Bill Metzger. X-Men fans know that that's a villain from the X-Men comics. Metzger, whatever. So she is possessing people telepathically in New York and using them to try and break into damage control. And this is one of the most controversial parts of this movie because Jean does some pretty horrible shit for the sake of saving her sister. She possesses innocent people's minds. She, at one point, sends a man into oncoming traffic and he gets hit by a car and probably dies. She possesses MJ's body and kisses Peter, making him believe that she remembered him for a brief moment. I'm not even going to go into detail on that scene because, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But like, oh my God, that entire scene just rips your heart out. Truly evil shit. She throws MJ off a building after that, by the way. Point being, they go to great lengths to paint Jean as the villain here. And that upset a lot of people, myself included at first. But the more I sit on it and the more I hear other reviews and other people's thoughts on it, the more it makes sense to me. To set up the X-Men and mutants in this universe properly, there has to be a reason to fear them. This is a world where superheroes and superpowers already exist. Like a group of people just showing up out of nowhere and having powers, that's not going to freak people out at this point or make them want to oppress them or something. So taking one of the first X-Men in this universe and making her an extremely dangerous threat to the world in her first appearance, I think is actually a great way to set the tone for how the world will view mutants going into the next saga. And Peter already developed the technology to suppress powers, inhibitor chip. This movie does a lot to set up for the X-Men, and this is where I'm going to state my first sort of grievance with this movie. I love the X-Men. I'm a big Cyclops guy, if you didn't know, obviously. So anything regarding their arrival, it gets me amped up. I just wish it wasn't in a Spider-Man movie. This is Spider-Man film number 4 for Tom Holland, and as good as Brand New Day is, it still does not give us a true Spider-Man villain. The closest we get here is Scorpion, but it's not even really him. It's him possessed by Jean Grey, trying to break into damage control. Like, the only time it ever felt like this Peter Parker had a true enemy that he despised was Green Goblin in No Way Home. And that's not even his villain. Like, I think the Jean plot works here, but only because it's written so well. Her motives were understandable. The twist at the end with VMAX, my God, what a well-written plot twist. My jaw was literally on the floor. So I can look past this just because of how good her character is written, but it doesn't change the fact that Tom Holland's Peter Parker has no Green Goblin, no Doc Ock, no Venom, no Kraven, no any iconic villain or arch nemesis. I mean, Mysterio was close, I guess, but I mean, he may as well have been a freaking Iron Man villain in this universe, Because Brand New Day is so good, I'm not going to be hung up too much on it. But look, bro, like going forward, I'm going to need a contained Spidey story, man. Like I need a Spider-Man villain. All right. Now, let me tell you something. I fuck with Frank Castle, bro. Let me tell you, bro, I fuck with Frank heavy. Punisher's role in this movie really boils down to Peter needing someone to keep MJ safe because Jean finds out about MJ and Ned. So he needs someone to protect her for a while. And, who better for the job than Frank Castle? I did not think this would work, but it does. It works pretty well. The dynamic between Peter and Frank is one of my favorite parts of this movie. So much so that I would be devastated if we never saw these two together again on screen. Their banter is so good. It is so funny. They already have a history together from the start of the movie. They constantly reference this Staten Island incident that you don't even find out what it is. It's kind of like a Natasha and Hawkeye, Budapest, that same running joke. You never find out what it is, but it is just hilarious. Peter apparently saved Frank, and Frank feels some type of way about it. God, it's so good, dude. My biggest fear with Frank going into this movie, as someone that loves Daredevil and the Punisher show, was them diluting Frank so much, to fit into a PG-13 setting that he becomes unrecognizable. And there's only so much they can do. Obviously, he can't be, going and busting skulls open and dropping F-bombs every other word, but they did what they could to keep him Frank. Like when MJ and Peter first get to Frank's hideout, MJ notices pictures of Frank's family in a cabinet, and she asks him about it. And he gets very angry, very upset with her. Basically says, you don't touch shit in my place. You don't ask whatever, typical Punisher stuff. A little while later, Frank asks Peter who MJ is. What's the deal? Who is this girl? What does she mean to you? And Peter basically responds, she's nobody. She's just somebody I'm trying to help. And he's like, nah, man, who is it? And Peter says, no, seriously, I don't have anybody. I'm like you. I'm a loner. I keep to myself. And again, Frank gets very, very angry, gets very emotional. And it's a very intense scene, like something you would see in The Punisher or Daredevil Born Again. He says, you think this is a choice for me to live this way? This life is a sentence. And it's a lot, man. And it lines up thematically with what we've seen from Bernthal's Punisher in the past. There were some moments that were probably a little bit more on the silly side that we would never see in Daredevil Born Again or anything on Disney Plus with the Punisher, but to me, it still worked. I liked it. I like what they did with the character here. I want more. Give me more. At the climax of the film, Jean breaks into damage control by possessing Hulk. And this is what leads to the big fight between Spider-Man and Hulk. And it was peak. It was very well done. I love the choreography. CGI work, VFX work was very, very good. I just loved seeing Hulk be Hulk again, man. I know that's a lot to ask for these days, but he's Hulk, and I hope it stays that way. My favorite part, though, is Frank shows up to help Spider-Man fight Hulk, and Peter's like, Frank, he's supposed to be watching MJ. He's not supposed to be there, but MJ talks him into going and helping him. And he's like, Frank, what are you doing here? This is way above your pay grade. He's like, that is the Hulk. It's so funny, dude. The way that they actually acknowledge the power scaling in such a humorous way. And there's a lot of funny moments in this segment. Little while later, when Peter starts fighting Hulk, Jean possesses Frank, like gets into his mind and possesses him. And immediately she's like, oh, this guy has issues. And then he's walking around all sassy and stuff. Again, you'd never see that in Daredevil Born Again, but it was absolutely hilarious. This movie is actually funny. It's not like, I feel MCU humor is such a big thing. Now, I was watching Far From Home, when we were doing the marathon before this movie came out, me and my son. There were parts of Far From Home where I was just like, eye roll, like I haven't even cracked a smile this whole film, I feel like. But no, this movie is actually very, very funny. I am pleased to say. The only thing that pissed me off about the Hulk fight was I felt like I already saw the whole damn thing, man, because of that freaking trailer. We got to nerf trailers. I should not have to worry about seeing too much of a film because I watched a freaking trailer. But like, seriously, it kind of hurt my viewing experience a good bit. Like most of the major action sequences in the movie, we've already seen in the trailer. That's like very disappointing. They got to stop doing that. But anyway, I thought the final act as a whole was very strong. Peter captures Jean, he delivers her to Metzger, and then he puts the inhibitor chip that Peter made on her and begins experimenting on her. And then we're hit with a reveal that at what Jean had been searching for throughout the whole movie, VMAX. Even earlier in the film, Peter, when he went to go see Yelena, he was asking, what is VMAX? And even Metzger, he asked Metzger about VMAX. What's VMAX? Nobody knows what VMAX is. Well, at the end, when Jean's captured, she's being tortured, she's in the chair in this cell while she's being tortured, and she looks up and sees on the vent on the ceiling, that was the name of like the brand on the vent. It said VMAX. It was actually Vent Max, but the E and T were like faded, ripped off, peeled off the label, and it just said VMAX. So her sister, while she was dying, was communicating with Jean telepathically saying VMAX, 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 because that was the last thing she saw before she died. Destin Daniel Cretton, here are the keys. You got it, boss. It's all yours. You got it. So Peter eventually discovers the truth about damage control. So then he goes to rescue Jean, but then she escapes and then freezes all of New York with her mind. You know, pretty standard X-Men telepathy type festivities. And this brings us to the final action sequence fight with Peter versus the Hand. Oh yeah, I haven't touched on that at all. The Hand, like that whole thing was really silly to me. The Hand being recruited by damage control to work security just seemed very far-fetched. I don't know, it just didn't mesh with me at all. I mean, they are literally a cult that worships a demon. I don't think they would agree to work security for a department of the government for $20 an hour, but that's just me. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, this fight was sick, even though, again, we already saw most of it in the trailer. Here, Peter embraces his evolution and his mutation rather than suppress it. He removes the inhibitor chip off the back of his neck, and Jean is controlling the Hand, and through them, she asks him, are you Peter Parker or are you Spider-Man? And that's when, you know, the eyes turn black. I'm both. And then he, from the trailer, rips the swords with the web, and then he's got the full organic web and the heightened senses, and we basically watch him level up in real time. And I creamed my pants a little bit. I webbed my pants a little bit, I think. This was one of my favorite scenes in all of live action Spider-Man history, I think. It's so good. And then in the grand finale, you know, Jean, she enters Peter's mind finally, which she had failed to do several times previously throughout the movie, and we get a scene with Aunt May. It's a flashback that Peter has in his subconscious, I guess, of right after she found out he was Spider-Man at the end of Homecoming. And she gives him this speech about, you know, being special and not being alone. And they were essentially the exact words Jean needed to hear in that moment. And it causes her to unfreeze New York, let go of Betsker and her rage, right? It is a very powerful scene, and dumbing it down that way really does it a huge disservice. I thought it was very X-Men coded, and I think it's so cool that Peter, you know, seeing his journey and where he started at in Civil War to where he is now, it seems as if he's going to step into a mentor role, you know, going forward into the MCU for any new mutants that come up, or, you know, potentially a half Puerto Rican, young half black man who could also have superhuman spider abilities. I'm just saying, that'd be pretty cool. But then that ending scared me, man. It scared me. Frank Castle, unaware that Peter had made it through to Jean, takes a shot at Jean with a sniper from miles away, and Peter jumps in front of the bullet for her. If you help someone, you help everyone. Oh my God, dude. Destin Cretton, have the keys, brother. It's so good. It's so good. So Peter's bleeding out, and we get a recreation of the iconic comic panel from Civil War, you know, Punisher carrying Spider-Man into the hospital. And I ain't gonna lie, like, I thought they really did it, bro. Like, I thought they killed Peter. And, you know, then he would come back in Secret Wars with the symbiote suit and all that. But no, they didn't do that. And I'm glad. I am. It's too early for that plot line, I think. And one of the coolest plot points here to me was Peter only living. He really should have died. But the only reason he lived is because Jean went into his mind and was literally breathing for him all that time. And it follows as he's laying in the hospital bed. You know, cuts to her breathing, and then she takes one last breath, and then he wakes up. Dude, this movie's amazing. The more just talking about it, you know, it's been a weird one for me, because after I first saw it, I loved it. I come out of the theaters, I was like, wow, that was amazing. But it's one of those, as it sits with you, it's usually the opposite for me. after I come out of the theater, I'm really high on something, and as the days go on, I go see it again. I kind of notice things, and I'm like, there's some stuff I didn't notice the first time that I don't like. This one's been the opposite, man. The more that it sits with me, the more I just really appreciate it more and more. I thought that ending with Gene and the way it all played out was just so good. I will say, though, as much as I do love this final act, there were some parts that started making me kind of scratch my head a little bit. Not in regards to the film itself, but, you know, how it fits into other MCU projects, how it lines up with other MCU projects. Specifically Daredevil Born Again. Like, there's a ton of narrative inconsistencies here. Why is Frank allowed to just roam the streets? Like, why was he allowed to sit in the hospital with Peter and nobody said anything? He's one of the most wanted men in New York. They don't acknowledge it. They don't acknowledge anything from Daredevil Born Again. How is this the same New York that elected Wilson Fisk? You know, the guy that put in the anti-vigilante task force, and Spider-Man has the key to the city at the same time. It's just like, I don't know, man. That really that bugs me. It's kind of a problem for me because the MCU is meant to be this big cohesive universe, right? Where the projects, you know, complement and intertwine together. Not that you can't have your standalone stories, but to an extent, everything does need to kind of coexist and line up. And you know, especially when they made it such a point in this movie to set up certain future MCU projects like the X-Men, it's just like, it feels like going forward, they're going to be picking and choosing what they want to acknowledge and what they don't. And I think that's kind of a dangerous precedent to set because it could easily lead to things getting really, really messy, you know, and you don't want that. But in a vacuum, as a Spidey story, this film is incredibly well written and it delivers almost everything I want in a Spider-Man story. I do think it is crippled a little bit by the desire to set up future projects in the MCU, but even with that being very true, they still tell a very good story here and it works. This is the best Spider-Man film I've watched since opening night 2004 Spider-Man 2. I am so comfortable saying that. Oddly enough, I feel like this movie accomplishes the same things for Spider-Man that Superman 2025 accomplished for Superman and the Batman, Matt Reeves' The Batman, accomplished for Batman. That being, it got the character back on track. After years of trying to do different things with the character that didn't really work, they brought it back down to earth, you know, back to the things that make the character what they are. And I love and appreciate Spider-Man Brand New Day for doing that. I really, really do. And in that same breath, though, I do feel like there was a little bit of missed opportunity here, potentially. You know, those 4 years Ned and MJ were away at college, there were some potentially really interesting stories to tell. That montage at the beginning, as great as it was, there were some really cool stories to tell within it. I want to see Spider-Man fight Tombstone. I want to see that story. I want to see him fight Scorpion, you know? Brand New Day, it felt like the second film of a new trilogy rather than the first to me. But this is all hypothetical, of course. You know, who's to say if they didn't write this story and they did opt for a more contained Spider-Man story that it would have been better than this, because what we got's pretty damn good, man. I can't complain too much. I am pretty happy with it. Oh yeah, I forgot. One last thing. Where in the hell is J. Jonah Jameson? We can't do that now. We can't be having that. I better Spider-Man 5. My goat better be there. I'm already seeing Tom, you know, they're asking Tom on the press tours and stuff. So at Spider-Man 5, they're asked about Spider-Man 5. He's like, oh, it's just kind of up in the air right now. And, you know, he drops these little things like kind of alluding to how his Spider-Man ends. You know, I think about how it ends for me, you know, and he brings up Miles and stuff. Tom, come here, bud. Come here, bud. Come here. You ain't going nowhere. You know that, right? You ain't going nowhere. Till you're 90. As Wade Wilson would say, till you're 90. Miles can come. He can come if he wants to, right? Miles can come hang out. You can train him up. You know, he hang out Harlem, come down to Brooklyn a little bit. But you ain't going nowhere. You owe me 2 trilogies. We just now got you on board. You are now Spider-Man. You weren't really Spider-Man before. You were Iron Boy Jr., but now you're Spider-Man. You ain't going nowhere, bro. What are you talking about right now? You are not even like, dude, I need another 20 from you, another 20 years. I know you, the kid stuff, I have kids too, bro. I get it. But look now, they can come on set. They can travel with you. Homeschool's, that's cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You can hire a traveling teacher, bring her with you. They do their fractions on set. But you ain't going nowhere. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Spider-Man Brand New Day. You know, very excited. That's one thing. I'm very excited for the future. More excited than ever before, really. I know that's crazy to say. But I am. I'm very excited. Doomsday, X-Men, Spider-Man's future is bright. Yeah. Drop a like, subscribe. See you again in 2 years.